Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the fiscal year 2024-25 California State Preschool Program Expansion Funding Request for Applications webinar presented by the California Department of Education, CDE, Early Education Division, EED, today, April 16th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Next slide, please. My name is Lindsay Castillo with the Contracts and Grants Administration CGA unit of the EED. I am joined by Crystal Devlin, Education Administrator of the Program Quality Implementation PQI Office for Northern California, Joey Boyd of the Early Education Nutrition and Fiscal Services EENFS Office, Elisa Rodriguez with EENFS, Kiana Slaughter with EENFS, Jacob Modeas of CGA, and Fiona Lavelle of CGA. We have a number of support staff who will be answering questions in the Q&A function throughout the webinar. Next slide, please. On the agenda today, we have the overview of the fiscal year FY 2024-25 California State Preschool Program, CSPP, Expansion Funding Request for Applications, RFA, application requirements, application review process, completing the application, fiscal information, program narrative and resources, and a live questions and answers session. Next slide, please. A couple of quick housekeeping items to note. The chat function is disabled for participants. Please use the Q&A function for questions. You can upvote a question by clicking the thumbs up icon. Important links will be dropped into the chat throughout the presentation. The webinar recording and PowerPoint slides will be posted to the RFA webpage after the live session. Now I'll hand it over to Crystal to review the overview and instructions portion of the CSPP RFA.
Okay, next slide, please. All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. As Lindsay said, I'm Crystal Devlin, an Education Administrator in the Early Education Division Program Quality Implementation Office. I'm going to start by providing you with an overview of the fiscal year 2024-2025 CSPP Expansion Funding Request for Applications. And then we'll discuss the intent of the 2024-25 CSPP Expansion RFA, the available funding and funding opportunities or priorities, as well as the statutory and regulatory background for this RFA. Next, we'll discuss the requirements for subcontracting your state preschool program services with another entity and the requirements for operating the state preschool program through a CSPP Family Child Care Home Education Network, also known as a FITCHN. We'll also discuss the general eligibility for funding and additional eligibility for funding requirements for both current contractors that are local educational agencies, LEAs, and new LEA applicants who do not currently hold a state preschool program contract. Then there's going to be a brief overview of general CSPP contract information, how contract payments are made, and finally requests for service level exemptions or startup requests. Next slide, please. The intent of this request for applications is to expand state preschool program services statewide to the greatest extent possible. These funds, in the amount of approximately $32.7 million, appropriated in the 2021 Budget Act and as amended by Senate Bill 129, are intended to increase the availability of CSPP services to eligible children. CSPP services must be provided based on the needs of the families and the communities served and based on the priorities set forth in law. This RFA funding opportunity is available to local educational agencies, again, LEAs, that are current CSPP contractors, or to LEAs that do not currently hold a CSPP contract with the Department of Education Early Education Division to provide either full day, full year, and or part day part-year state preschool program services. An LEA is defined as a school district, a county office of education, a community college district, or a direct funded charter school. Next slide. Funding will be allocated by county and within each county by the local planning council or LPC priority area. Funding awards will be based on the LPC priority area in the order of highest passing score first. In the event that a county does not utilize its allocation, the funding will be redistributed to other applicants based on the LPC priority, followed by the highest score. Next slide. Applicants who are awarded CSPP funds through this RFA will receive funds under contract with the CDE and are required to administer the CSPP and to comply with all applicable laws and regulations associated with the contract, as well as the terms and conditions set forth in the CSPP contract terms and conditions, also known as the CTCs, applicable to the fiscal year in which the services are provided under the state preschool program contract. Next slide. CSPP contractors must sign CSPP contracts attesting that they will comply with the Early Education Act, commencing with the California Education Code, EC, Section 8200, the California Code of Regulations, 5 CCR, Title 5, commencing with Section 17700, all management bulletins, applicable regulations adopted by the CDE, EED, and the uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements for federal awards pursuant to the Code of Federal Regulations, Title II, which is 2 CFR Part 200. Contractors are also required to follow all requirements in the California School Accounting Manual, as well as the CDE Audit Guide, both available on the CDE website. LEA applicants that are awarded a CSPP contract must also adhere to the standards and procedures for audits of California K-12 local educational agencies issued by the Education Audit Appeals Panel as regulations. Fiona will put a link in the chat for you now. If the LEA is not exempt from the California Code of Regulations Title 22 CCR licensing requirements, services for children must not begin until the CSPP contractor submits a copy of the facility license to the CDE Early Education Nutrition Fiscal Services Office, our EENFS team, and the applicable Program Quality Implementation Office regional consultant. Applicants that are awarded a CSPP contract are permitted to subcontract in accordance with Chapter 2 of Part 6 of Division 1 of Title 1 of the Education Code, commencing with Section 8200, Title 5 CCR, and the CSPP CT&Cs. As set forth in 5 CCR Chapter 18.5, Subchapter 10, Article 2, or any successor regulations, all subcontracts must be approved by the CDE in accordance with the regulations. If approved, the applicant remains responsible for ensuring that the subcontractor complies with all administrative, programmatic, and fiscal requirements of the state preschool program contract. Note that reimbursement of administrative costs shall not exceed a total of 15% of the net reimbursable program costs or actual administrative costs for all contractors and subcontractors in accordance with Education Code Section 8258. Applicants may also apply for CSPP funding to operate the state preschool program via a family child care home education network, again, a FITCHN. A FITCHN is an entity organized under law that contracts with the California Department of Education to provide educational and support services to children and families eligible for state-subsidized early learning services and to family child care home providers, and to make payments to those licensed family child care home providers that are providing the CSPP services in their homes. The contractors are responsible for the administrative, programmatic, and fiscal compliance with the California State Preschool Program contract terms and conditions, as well as compliance with the requirements set forth in Education Code Section 8223. Okay, now let's talk about eligibility requirements to apply for this RFA funding opportunity. As previously mentioned, this funding opportunity is only available to local educational agencies that are either current CSPP contractors or LEAs that do not currently hold a state preschool program contract with the CDE EED. Per Education Code Section 8205, an LEA is a school district, county office of education, or a community college district. Direct funded charter schools will be considered LEAs for the purposes of this RFA. As set forth in 5 CCR Section 17722A, all current CSPP contractors that are LEAs are eligible to apply for new or additional CSPP funds, except when one or more of the following conditions apply during the RFA cycle. The CSPP contractor is on conditional contract status because of fiscal or programmatic noncompliance, or the CDE EED has conducted a compliance monitoring review pursuant to 5 CCR Section 17794, and the contractor has failed to clear items of fiscal or programmatic noncompliance identified during the review within 12 months of the issuance of the compliance review report. Continued with the reasons for an applicant to be deemed eligible for expansion funding. If the CSPP contractor has in place or places a person in a position of fiscal responsibility or control who has been convicted of a crime involving misuse or misappropriation of state or federal funds, or a state or federal crime involving moral turpitude as set forth in Education Code Section 8316. The CDE, if the CDE reduced the CSPP contractor's current year maximum reimbursement amount, also known as the MRA, due to the contractor's inability to utilize its full contract amount, whether through low enrollment or low expenditures for the CSPP contract, would also be deemed ineligible. And also, if the agency's current contract is on provisional status, which means you received a contract and through an RFA, and for a minimum of the first year, the contract's on provisional status. So if it has not been moved to clear contract status, it would be considered to still be on provisional status. An applicant would also be deemed ineligible for this funding opportunity if the contractor was previously awarded CSPP expansion funding and has not yet begun providing services with that funding. Additionally, if the CDE has evidence that the contractor has not been able to successfully fulfill the current contract requirements by serving children in a quality program and in a fiscally responsible manner, they would be deemed ineligible, as well as if the contractor has an outstanding accounts receivable balance with the CDE, or the contractor has a delinquent audit with the CDE pursuant to 5 CCR Section 17825. Okay, eligibility for new LEA applicants. Pursuant to 5 CCR Section 17722B, an applicant who is not a current CDE contractor is eligible to apply for new CSPP funding, except when any of the following conditions apply. The LEA applicant had a previous contract with the CDE that was terminated or not continued by the CDE due to fiscal and/or programmatic noncompliance, as described in 5 CCR Sections 178 1728 or 17829 within 3 years immediately preceding the date that this RFA was posted. The applicant had a previous contract with the CDE and has an outstanding accounts receivable balance with the CDE or another state or federal agency, or the applicant had a previous contract with the CDE and has a delinquent audit with the CDE pursuant to 5 CCR section 17825. Continuing with reasons why a new LEA applicant would be deemed ineligible for this funding opportunity would be if the applicant is currently listed on a state or federal debarment list, or the applicant or any potential subcontractor has in place or places a person in a position of fiscal responsibility or control who has been convicted of a crime involving misuse or misappropriation of state or federal funds, or a state or federal crime involving moral turpitude, as set forth in Education Code Section 8316. Note that if an LEA applicant, whether a current contractor or not, is determined to be ineligible funding based on any of the above grounds, the applicant will be apprised of their ineligibility. Sorry, and they will be notified in writing and provided with the specific grounds of ineligibility. All right, now I'll turn it over to Alyssa Rodriguez from the Early Education and Nutrition Fiscal Services Unit. Oh, I'm sorry, I will not. Okay, sorry about that. I'm missing some slides. General CSPP contract information. A CSPP contract is issued by the CDE and entered into by the applicant, and it is a legally binding agreement between the CDE and the contractor. The contractor agrees to provide CSPP services according to defined fiscal and programmatic requirements, and the CDE agrees to reimburse the contractors for those services according to the defined limits. The contract's MRA, as defined in this RFA, will be negotiated based on the proposed award amount. Annual CSPP contracts are effective for one state fiscal year, FY, July 1 to June 30th, unless otherwise stated in the contract. Successful applicants have 3 fiscal years from the date of the proposed award letter to open sites or classrooms and begin providing state preschool program services. If the proposed sites or classrooms are not open within 3 fiscal years from the date of the proposed award letter, the applicant will receive formal notice from the EED that the proposed award is rescinded. Pursuant to 5 CCR Section 17726, contractors have no vested right to a subsequent contract. After the initial CSPP contract period, the contractor's approval for continued funding each subsequent year is contingent upon compliance with the terms and conditions of the contract, evidence of satisfactory contract performance, and meeting all relevant and state applicable reporting requirements. Okay, and I think this should have been turned over to Elisa Rodriguez from the Early Education and Nutrition Fiscal Services Unit to discuss additional information regarding contracts and payments to contractors.
Thank you, Crystal. Hello, everybody. My name is Alyssa Rodriguez, and I will be discussing contract and payment information. So, all transactions conducted by the awarded applicant shall be fair and reasonable and conducted at an arm's length, including, but not limited to, where the contractor is party to a transaction and the other party is one of the following: an officer or employee of the contractor or of an organization having financial interest in the contractor, or a partner or controlling stakeholder of the contractor or an organization having financial interest in the contract, or a family member of a person having a financial interest in the contractor. In accordance with Education Code Section 8255 and 5 CCR Section 17805, a new or expanding CSPP may not have sufficient enrollment during the first contract period while the program is starting up, but may have reimbursable expenses. The statute allows the CDE to provide and reimburse startup costs in an amount not to exceed 15% of the total award without the contractor providing services, and allows the applicants to submit a request for service level exemption, known as a startup allowance. The startup allowance is not additional funding, but is part of the total contract maximum reimbursable amount, or the MRA. If applicable, successful applicants may work with the EENFS on determining eligibility and receiving the service level exemption startup allowance after receiving the proposed award letter from the CDE. Next slide, please. Okay. Funds cannot be distributed until a formal contract between the CDE and the applicant has been fully executed and is contingent upon the availability of funds. Payment on or after July 1st of any fiscal year can be made only when the California state budget has been chaptered. Contract execution occurs when both parties, the applicant and CDE, have signed the contract. Prior to that time, the CDE has the right to collect additional information from the awarded agency to ensure that the awarded agency can fulfill the fiscal and programmatic requirements of the contract. Once the contract is signed, the contractor will receive a copy of the executed contract. Contracts incurred before the period of performance in a fully executed contract are not reimbursable expenditures. CSPP contract funds must be spent on reimbursable costs for eligible children served during the contract period, or reimbursable startup costs if applicable. The CDE, Early Education, Nutrition, and Fiscal Services Unit, is responsible for generating contract payments. Payments will only be made for reimbursable costs incurred during the contract period. The first payment of funds should not be expected for at least 6 to 8 weeks after the contract execution. Now back over to Crystal, who will conclude the overview and instructions.
Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, so now we're going to discuss the application requirements. The application must demonstrate the applicant's working knowledge of state and federal requirements for California state preschool programs. We recommend that applicants review the contract terms and conditions of the CSPP contract, current management bulletins, and the frequently asked questions included on the CDE webpage to assist with development of the application. Fiona is dropping the links to the CTCs, the Management Bulletins webpage, and the FAQ webpage in the chat for you now. Applicants must submit all required information and forms requested in the RFA. It is very important that all required information and forms are complete and accurate. Be sure to thoroughly read the instructions for the application to ensure that you understand the requirements for a complete and accurate application for the CSPP funding opportunity. Any applications that are incomplete or not completed in compliance with the application instructions may be rejected at the discretion of the Early Education Division. Next slide. Okay, application submission requirements. The application for this RFA must be completed by a user who has the authority to submit funding applications on behalf of the agency applying. Applications are due to the CDE Early Education Division by May 6th, 2024 by 5:00 p.m. The preferred method of submission of the application is an electronic version via the SNAP survey software. If you are unable to submit via the SNAP survey, you may submit it electronically via an email by printing it, signing all required pages, scanning it, and emailing it to the CSPP RFA at cde.ca.gov email inbox. Now, I'm going to hand it back over to Lindsay to talk about the application review process that is conducted by the CDE EED.
All right, thank you, Crystal. We can go to the next slide, please. Great, so we're talking about the application review process now. This is the preliminary screening process and appeals for determinations of ineligibility. Applications received timely will be preliminarily screened to determine whether the applicant is eligible for funding. Applicants deemed ineligible for funding will be notified of their ineligibility in writing. All applicants that are found ineligible for funding will have their applications screened for completeness in accordance with RFA instructions. Applications that are not complete or that are not completed in accordance with the instructions and timelines may be disqualified. Next slide, please. Thank you. Scoring criteria. The applicant's score is based solely on the assessment of the written program narrative. Applications will be scored in accordance with the scoring criteria set forth in the program narrative. The applicant must obtain a minimum score of 84, which is 70% of the 120 points possible to be eligible for funding. Next slide. And this is about results notification. The CDE will notify all eligible applicants of their score via email in a written notification of eligibility. Applicants may request reader comments on their applications by submitting a request to csppRFA@cde.ca.gov no later than 10 business days following the notification of eligibility. Thank you. And now we are talking about applicant appeals. After receiving the written notification of eligibility, applicants who wish to appeal their score must submit a letter of appeal, which must be received by CDE no later than 10 business days from notification of eligibility to CSPPRFA@cde.ca.gov. Appeals are limited to addressing whether the CDE correctly applied the scoring criteria specified in the RFA. Additional information will not be accepted. Missing or incomplete documentation of the required elements cannot be the basis for an appeal. Late appeals will not be considered. Appeals will be reviewed by CDE staff within 10 business days, and all decisions will be final. Next slide, please. Once all appeals have been decided, the CDE will award funding to eligible applicants based on criteria set forth in this RFA. The CDE will email proposed funding award letters to successful applicants. If necessary, the EENFS unit will contact successful applicants to ask clarifying questions regarding the fiscal information submitted with the application. No award is final until the CDE receives a completed and signed contract package from the applicant and the contract is executed by the CDE. So this is part 2, completing the fiscal year 24-25 CSPP expansion funding application. So now what we are going to do is walk through a completed version of the SNAP survey so that I can provide some direction on how to complete the SNAP survey, what it looks like, and any information that you will need in order to complete the SNAP survey. So we can go ahead and pull that up now. And the SNAP survey can be found on the CSPP RFA webpage that Fiona just put the link in the chat. All right, thank you. So here we have the fiscal year 24-25 CSPP RFA. This is the SNAP survey. SNAP survey is an online application tool that the CDE uses to collect information, and that is how we are administering this RFA. So here you have the overview and instructions. So please take a moment to read through those before you begin your application. It describes the instructions, the sections that are a part of the RFA. It also gives some technical information about using the SNAP survey platform, like how to save responses if you would like to work on the RFA in multiple sessions. So that information is contained on that first page. We can go to the next page. So section 1 asks for applicant information. That is broken into agency information, looking for the legal name, what you're doing business as, agency type, and the county school district code, headquartered county, legal business address, the city, and the zip code. There's a question that asks whether your agency currently holds a CSPP contract. If you select yes, a pop-up will appear that will ask for your agency's vendor number. There's a space to enter your vendor number. If you select no, that pop-up will not appear, so you will not enter that information. Then you'll move on to executive director, contact information, first name, last name. For the phone number, it notes the format in which the phone number needs to be entered. If it's not entered in that format, you will have to re-enter it before you can proceed with the application. The executive director email address and any prior affiliations of the executive director. Then we ask for the program director contact information, the same information as the executive director, first name, last name, phone number, email address, and prior affiliations, and same for the applicant contact information. We can go to the next page. Thank you. This is section 2, operation information, program type, and slots requested. So this is asking what CSPP program types your agency will operate, and there are education code definitions provided here for what counts as part day CSPP and full day CSPP. So you will select the program types that you'll operate. For each selection that you make, a box will appear for full day, full year. What is the total number of children your agency intends to serve in this program type? And full day, full year, what are the minimum days of operation for the program? So those two pieces of information will pop up for each program type that you select. Then the next section is justification for fewer operating days if your agency intends to operate fewer than the full day, full year, or part day, part year MDO, as stated in Education Code Section 8207B and C. You must provide a justification. So there is space here for you to provide a part day, part year justification or a full day, full year justification, only if this applies to you. If this does not apply to you, you can just put NA or none and move on to the next section, which is county or counties of operation. It'll ask how many counties will the agency operate CSPP sites in, and then the name of each county. Next part is about subcontracting services. Oh, can we go back? Thank you. Just asking if you intend to subcontract, establish a subcontract relationship with another entity to implement the CSPP services described in this application. And finally, on this page, there is information about a family childcare home education network. Excuse me. We can go to the next page. Section 3 is for attachments. On this page is where you will upload all of the attachments associated with the RFA. It is really important to upload all of the attachments that are applicable to your agency's application without all of the correct attachments, your application may be screened out. So this is the page where you want to include all of the necessary attachments. So there are fiscal attachments, full day fiscal worksheets, part day fiscal worksheets, part day to full day expansion forms, if applicable, and then the statement of fiscal resources. So those are fiscal attachments. And then there's a section for program attachments. There is the program calendar, the program narrative scoring rubric, the program staffing plan, and then if applicable, the fetch-in operation information, and if applicable, subcontractor certification. On this attachment page, these files must be saved into a single zip file. And this page includes instructions on how to create a zip file. So you can refer to the instructions there. Also, they're available also through Microsoft support. And if you need technical assistance, please email csppRFA@cde.ca.gov, and we can provide assistance with how to create a zip file to make sure that all of your attachments are added correctly to the application. Next page. So this section is section 4, certifications. There are 4 different sections for certifications. One is, they're all the program narrative acknowledgement, general monitoring, and can you scroll down to the last one? And statutes and regulations. And then can you scroll back up to the top? Thank you. So please note, for this section, each box must be selected in order to continue with the RFA. So it's important to read and select or indicate that you have read each statement in order to continue with the RFA. And if the box is not selected, the software won't let you proceed. So each box must be selected in order to continue. All right, we can scroll down. That is the certifications. And then on this last section, agreement, says by signing this application, I, the district superintendent, charter school administrator, or authorized designee, confirm that my signature is the legally binding equivalent to my handwritten signature. I understand that submissions that are incomplete or not in compliance with the application instructions may be rejected. Here you enter the signature of the agency's authorized representative, the title, and the date. Then we click next. Now, this is where you will submit the RFA. Before you submit, you have the chance to save and print your responses. So you can do both of those options before you actually submit, so you have a copy for your records, and instructions to do that are provided on this page. After you click submit, we're going to pause and not click anything right now. As it says in bold on this page, there is an additional step to complete your application contained in the confirmation email you receive. So once you click submit, you will receive an email, excuse me, at the email address provided in the survey. In this email, there are instructions for one final action item needed in order to complete your application. So Jacob, we can navigate back to the slides now to show what that looks like. So once you click submit on Snap Survey, you will receive an email that says Snap Survey action needed. Please read this email and complete the action item described in the email to ensure your application is submitted correctly. And again, if you have questions about this step, please email cspprfa@cde.ca.gov. Next slide. All right, now I'm going to pass it to our EENFS team to do a live demo of how to complete the fiscal forms for the CSPP RFA.
Thank you, Lindsay. Hello, my name is Kiana Slaughter, and I will be presenting a live demo on how to complete the full year fiscal form. Next slide, please. Let's look at an example of a completed worksheet A. Also, I will only be reviewing the full day, full year fiscal forms today, but if the applicant is applying for part day, part year, the applicant will need to submit part day, part year fiscal forms worksheet B. For worksheet A1, the applicant will enter site information, including the service county, the site name, the site address, number of classrooms, license number, license type, and license capacity. First, the applicant will select the service county in the drop-down menu. In this example, the applicant has selected Sacramento as the service county. Next, the applicant would then fill out the site name, site address, number of classrooms, license number, license type, and license capacity. In this example, we are looking at Oz Preschool Center site information. If the site which funds are being requested for is not licensed and the applicant and the license number and or license capacity is unknown at the time of completing the application, the applicant will enter pending or TBD in those fields. Please note, if the applicant is requesting funds for more than one site, the applicant will need to complete tabs worksheet A1, A3, and A4 for each full day, full year site. The applicant will need to complete part day, part year B1, B3, and B4 worksheets for each site for which the applicant is applying for more than part day, part year site to be funded. So be sure to create a copy of all three parts of worksheet A for each site for which you are applying for funding. The instructions for creating a copy of the tab are at the top of the form under general instructions. Data in worksheet A2 will automatically populate if the applicant has chosen a service county. If no information is displayed, please go back to worksheet A1 to ensure a service county has been selected. Worksheet A2 will display the service county's contract rate for full day, which is $55.27 for this example, along with the part day adjustment factors for 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, exceptional needs, and severely disabled. Next slide, please. And now we will move on to worksheet A3. Here, the applicant will enter the number of certified children to be served per day under the appropriate child enrollment category in column B. Once the enrollment data is entered, the Excel worksheet will multiply the number of children by the adjustment factor in column C. This will calculate the adjusted child days of enrollment per day, which will auto-populate in column D. This example shows that Oz Preschool Center will enroll 14 3-year-old full-time children, 6 4-year-old full-time children, and 2 exceptional needs full-time children. At the bottom of the screen, you will see the total certified children per day of 22, as well as the total adjusted child days of enrollment per day, which is calculated by the sum of the total number of children per day and multiplied by the category's adjustment factor. These figures will auto-populate to the next tab, worksheet A4. Next slide, please. Thank you. Moving on to worksheet A4, this worksheet calculates the amount of funding requested per site based on the total number of children the applicant identified in worksheet A3 to be served. For this worksheet, the only data that the applicant will need to enter is the total days of operation, which should correspond to the full year calendar that is submitted with this RFA. For this example, if the applicant has entered the days of operation in column B, the remaining cells within the worksheet will calculate automatically. Column A pulls the total adjusted child days of enrollment that was calculated in worksheet A3, which in our example was 36.0000. For column B, 246 was entered as the total days of operation. Column C, total annual adjusted child days of enrollment, is calculated by multiplying column A by column B. In this example, column C equals 8,856. Column C is then multiplied by the daily rate of 55.27 to arrive at 489,471, which is the amount of total funds requested for the site Oz Preschool Center, reflected in column E. Next slide, please. The next worksheet we are going to look at is worksheet A5. This worksheet is where the applicant identifies the total number of non-certified children they will be serving per day for all sites. Meaning, if the applicant is submitting worksheets for multiple sites, the applicant will only need to submit one worksheet A5 for all sites. Non-certified children refer to children who will be served in the same classroom at the same time as certified children. Just to clarify, certified children are those paid for with CSPP funds. Non-certified children are paid for with another funding source, such as family fees. Looking at our example of worksheet A5, Oz Preschool Center will be providing services to 2 non-certified children. As mentioned, data on this form is a summary of all non-certified children for all sites. So keep in mind, if you're an applicant that is requesting funds for 2 sites, it will be the sum of all non-certified children for both sites. This data will automatically populate to the budget pages. The funds that are being requested through the RFA are for certified children, but we will review the data for non-certified children as it affects the calculation, which we will show as an example when we review the budget pages. Next slide, please. Here is an example of worksheet A6. This worksheet is a summary page for all sites funding is being requested for. The applicant will need to enter the site data for each of the proposed sites, whether it's 1 site or 10 sites. All sites requested must be listed here. This is important because information from this worksheet will automatically populate to the budget pages. In our example, the applicant has listed just 1 site, Oz Preschool Center. This applicant has also listed the total annual adjusted child days of enrollment per site, which is 8,856 for this site. This number can be found on worksheet A4, column C. Once the applicant has completed the entries for all sites, the grand totals for total annual adjusted child days of enrollment per site and total funds requested per site will automatically calculate at the bottom of the worksheet. Applicants should verify that the total funds requested per site matches the amount of funds requested from worksheet A4 for each site. In this example, the applicant has entered 489,471 as the total funds requested per site. This amount is also the grand total as the applicant is only requesting funds for 1 site. Now I will go over the budget pages. Much of the data in the budget pages will auto-populate from the previous worksheet. Next slide, please. Worksheet A7 is the budget section. This worksheet is the proposed budget plan and is where the applicant will enter the anticipated reimbursable expenses. This section will calculate the budget total to be used in subsequent budget sections. Here we have an example of worksheet A7. There are multiple lines where data must be entered to complete this worksheet. Please note that expenses listed here are expenses for the entire program and not just for certified children, so certified and non-certified costs. Starting with line 1, certified salaries 1,000, such as salaries paid to employees with a child development permit, teaching credential, or other appropriate certificates, the applicant has entered in 225,000. In line 2 is classified salaries 2,000, which are all other salaries for non-certified staff of 125,000. Next is employee benefits in category 3,000, which are employers' contributions to retirement plans, and health and welfare benefits of $75,000. Moving on to line 4, books and supplies categories, $4,000, which includes expenditures for books and supplies, including sales, use, and handling charges of $40,000. Now jumping down to services and other operating expenses, $5,000. This line will be a total of lines 5A, B, C, D, E, F, and they are itemized as follows. 5A, expenditures for rental leases. 5B, service contracts, includes janitorial, auditor, or maintenance contracts. We have $35,000. 5C, nutrition expenses related to meals and snacks served to children in the program. An example would be any service agreement with a vendor that you have to provide meals. The applicant has entered $45,000. Lines 5D is for travel, and lines 5E and F is for others, such as insurance, utilities, legal, and other operating expenditures. Line 5 is the total of services and other operating expenses. On this line, there is a total of $80,000, which will auto-populate, pulling data entered from lines 5A through 5F. Now let's jump down to indirect costs. Indirect costs can be for an item that would normally be $5,000, but it's not listed in these line items because it cannot be separately identified. Indirect costs are limited to an indirect cost rate that must be based on an approved cost allocation plan, not to exceed the rate specified in the annual preschool contract. Federal regulation allows a maximum indirect cost rate of 10% for any non-federal entity that has never received a negotiated indirect cost rate. On line 9, indirect cost, the applicant has entered $7,000. Next is line 10, other. In our example, the applicant has entered 0. Line 11 reflects a budget total of $552,000. Line 12 is the total administrative cost. These are costs incurred for administrative activities where neither the family nor the child directly benefits from the activity. This includes any indirect costs and is limited to 15% of the net reimbursable cost. In this example, the applicant has entered $11,000 in administrative costs. Now let's move on to the second budget worksheet, calculating data for certified children. Next slide, please. Next, let's look at worksheet A8. This worksheet is which will calculate data for certified children by using the data entered from worksheets A4 through A7. Directing you to column A, you can see the total annual adjusted certified child days of enrollment of 8,856, which auto-populates from worksheet A4. Then we have total adjusted non-certified child days of enrollment. This number is pulled from data entered in worksheet A5. Moving on to proposed days of operation of 246, which comes from worksheet A4. Jumping down to nutrition costs paid for by federal or state nutrition programs. This is the only field the applicant will need to enter data in. This would be any funds from the Child and Adult Care Program. This would be any funds from the Child and Adult Care Food Program, school lunch program, and etc. In our example, the applicant has entered $10,000 for line A8. Then we have budget subtotal of $542,000. And lastly, we have certified budget portion of $492,727. An important note to remember, this example is serving both certified and non-certified children. This worksheet will multiply your budget subtotal by the percentage of total certified enrollment, which determines the portion of the budget that is purely for certified children. This is the amount of the proposed budget that may be reimbursed through the CSPP program. Next tab, please. Moving on to worksheet A9, this worksheet will determine the amount of state contract funds being requested, and if the applicant would need to secure other sources of income to supplement the program. There's no data entry required on this page. However, if the calculation indicates a positive value for other income needed, the applicant must complete worksheet A10. Let's look at an example. Let's take a look at column A. In this example, there is total funding requested in the amount of $489,471. You might remember when we were talking about the summary site information a few slides ago that the grand total of the funds requested for this site was $489,471. So if approved, this agency would be awarded $489,471 for this RFA. For this budget example, we're looking at the certified budget portion of $492,727, which auto-populates from worksheet A8. Next is the requested contract maximum reimbursable amount, which takes the lesser of the top two values, which is $489,471. Next, there is the budget total from worksheet A8 of $492,727. We have other income needed as $3,256. If an amount is displayed on the other income needed, it means that the amount listed in the budget amount the applicant will need, which would mean that the applicant must have additional funding sources to make up the difference. That will lead us to worksheet A10. Worksheet A10 will need to be completed only if worksheet A9 displays an amount for other income needed. This worksheet is where the agency will detail any outside or other income sources in addition to the requested fund state. To complete this worksheet by filling in the information to complete column. Additionally, this is a second space provided. There is a second space provided for additional notes regarding these other fund sources. Here, the applicant will enter data and information to complete column B. In our example, we have the nutrition program. We also have the parent fees for non-certified children of $3,256. Donations and grants, and we have fundraising listed as examples of outside or other income resources. Once the data is entered, it will result in total other income needed, which in this example is $3,256, which will be what is needed in other income based on the previous worksheet A9. Next slide, please. We included a page for service county rates. This page will list all service counties, contract rates for full day and part day services, part day adjustment factors for 3 and 4-year-olds, exceptional needs, and severely disabled enrollment categories. This is an information only page. This concludes the overview for full day, full year fiscal forms for applicants requesting to expand a CSPP program. Remember, if you're an applicant that is applying for part day, part year, the applicant will need to submit part day, part year fiscal forms, worksheet B. Now I will turn it over to Joy Boyd.
Thank you, Tiana. Good afternoon. As Kiana mentioned, my name is Joey Boyd. I am a fiscal analyst with the ENFS unit. Kiana just presented an overview of the fiscal worksheets applicants will need to complete when requesting funds to expand the CSPP program. The next fiscal forms we will cover is Worksheet C, and it's only applicable for applicants with current CSPP contracts who are contracted to provide part day, part year services, but wish to apply to receive additional funding to convert those part day, part year slots to a full day, full year program. Worksheet C will be used by the applicant to determine how much funding is associated with their existing part day, part year children and calculate what is needed to expand to a full day, full year program. Let's get started. So let us start the overview with Worksheet C1 shown on the screen. Worksheet C1, similar to Worksheets A1 that Kiana just covered, will be selected by the applicant to determine the service county. After selecting a service county, the corresponding contract rates will auto-populate in the following worksheets. First, the applicant will select the correct service county in the drop-down menu in which these children are currently being served. So for this example, we chose Sacramento as the service county. Next, the applicant would then fill out the site name, site address, number of classrooms, license number, license type, and license capacity. I want to reiterate that it is important to double check the service county is correct, as county rates vary and could calculate the wrong fund amounts if not done correctly. Next worksheet tab, please. Thank you. Next, we have Worksheet C2, which is Certified Enrollment Information and Funds Requested. Worksheet C2 will automatically be filled out if the applicant has chosen a service county. If no information is displayed, please go back to Worksheet C1 to ensure a service county has been selected. Worksheet C2 will display the service county's contract rate for full day, which in this example is $55.27, along with the part day adjustment factors for 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, exceptional needs, and severely disabled. Next tab, please. Next, we have Worksheet C3, which is the current certified enrollment information. Worksheet C3, which applicants will be entering the current certified enrollment for the site classrooms that is currently contracted for the part day, part year CSPP services and is applying to expand for full day, full year services. The applicants will enter the current number of children being served in the appropriate category in column B. In this example, we have part day, part year classroom of 24. 10 are being reported as part-time 3-year-old category. 8 are being reported as part-time 4-year-old category. 3 are being reported as part-time exceptional needs, and 3 are being reported as part-time dual language learner. At the bottom of the screen, column B, applicants will see the total children of 24. At the bottom of column B, applicants will see the total current adjusted child days of enrollment per day, which is calculated by the sum of the total of the children per day and multiplied by the category's adjustment factor. These figures will auto-populate to the next tab, Worksheet C4. Next tab, please. Okay, so this is Worksheet C4, current certified enrollment information and service earnings calculations. This worksheet will take the information from the previous tabs and calculate the total service earnings for the part day, part year that is currently being served. These calculations will be used later to determine how much more funding is going to be required to serve the number of children identified in Worksheet C3 in a full day, full year program. On the middle of the screen in column A, we see the total adjusted child days of enrollment per day. This is auto-populated from the data entered in Worksheet C3. So for this example, the total adjusted days of enrollment per day is 22.4182. In column B, we have the current days of operation for part day, part year program. This will be the only field that the applicant completes. All other fields will calculate automatically. In this example, the applicant's current currently has 180 days of operation for the part day, part year classroom. Next in column C is the total annual adjusted child days of enrollment, which is calculating the total adjusted child days of enrollment in column A and multiplying this figure by the total days of operation in column B, which equals 4,035.276. Next in column D is the contract rate for full day services of 55.27. This figure is auto-populated from worksheet C2 if a service county had been selected. In the final column, column E, is the total current service earnings per site, which is calculating the total annual child days of enrollment, column C, and multiplying that by the contract rate for full day service, column D. In our example, the total current service earnings for this site is $223,030. This is the amount of funding associated with this applicant's current part day, part year enrollment that is being requested to change to the full day, full year program. The next two worksheets will begin to calculate the service earnings for these children in a full day, full year program. Next tab, please. So next we have worksheet C5, projected certified full day enrollment information. Worksheets C5 and C6 will be filled out by the contractor in a similar manner that worksheets C3 and C4 were completed. But for these next two worksheets, the applicant is calculating the amount of funding that is associated with serving these children in full day, full year program. On the screen right now, worksheet C5 is displayed, the projected certified full day enrollment information. On this page, applicants will enter the children currently enrolled in the part day, part year program as entered in worksheet C3. But on this worksheet, those children will be entered in the full day category. So if we're taking our example from before, 10 children are now being reported as the full-time 3-year-old category. 8 children are being reported as the full-time 4-year-old category. 3 children are being reported as full-time exceptional needs. And 3 children are being reported as full-time dual language learner for, again, a total of 24 children. I want to bring your attention to the bottom of the screen. Applicants will see the total children of 24, as well as the total adjusted child days of enrollment per day, which equals 36.8 in our example. This is calculated by taking the sum of the total number of children per day in column B and multiplied by the category's adjustment factor in column C. These figures will auto-populate to the next tab in worksheet C6. Next tab, please. Thank you. So worksheet C6, projected certified enrollment and certified earnings calculations. This worksheet will take the information from the previous tabs and calculate the projected service earnings for full day, full year that will be used to determine the funding needed to convert current enrolled children identified in worksheet C3 from part day, part year to full day, full year. On the middle of the screen in column A, we see the total adjusted days of enrollment per day. This total auto-populates from the data entered in worksheet C5. For this example, the total adjusted days of enrollment per day is 36.8. In column B, we have the days of operation being proposed for the full day, full year expansion. This will be the only field that the applicant completes. All other fields will calculate automatically. Applicants will enter in the days of operation that are being proposed for the full day, full year. In this example, we are using 246 days operated. Next, in column C, we have the total annual adjusted child days of enrollment, which is calculating the total adjusted days of enrollment and multiplying this figure by the total days of operation. So in our example, total adjusted child days of enrollment is 9,052.8. Next, in column D, we have the contract rate for full day service of 55.27. As a reminder, this information auto-populates from worksheet C2 when the service county has been selected. In the final column, we have the total projected service earnings per site, which is calculating the total annual child days of enrollment, column C, and multiplying by the contract rate for full day service, column D. In our example, the total projected service earnings for this classroom is $500,348. In our example, or sorry, this is the amount of funding that would be required in the full day, full year program. Next tab, please. Thank you. On the last tab, we have worksheet C7, and this is a summary of funds needed to serve full day program. Worksheet C7 summary funds will need to be filled out by the applicant to determine necessary funding to move the part day, part year to a full day, full year by comparing the service earnings for the existing part day, part year children that are currently in contract and the projected service earnings to increase services to full day, full year. Because applicants can have multiple sites, classrooms being proposed for funding, information from prior worksheets will not transfer into this worksheet C7. The applicants will need to manually enter the information. In column A, we have the site name listing. For our example, we only have one classroom, Oz Preschool. If there are multiple sites, classrooms being proposed, they will also be listed in column A, as agencies should only submit one worksheet C7 regardless of how many classrooms are being proposed for additional funding. In column B, we have the total current service earnings from the existing part day, part year program. Applicants will need to input this information manually and can be found on worksheet C4, section 3 in column E. For our example, $223,030 is the service earnings for the existing part day, part year program. In column C, we have the total projected service earnings from the proposed full day, full year program. Applicants will need to input this information manually as well and can be found on worksheet C6, section 3 in column E. For our example, $500,348 is the projected service earnings for the full day, full year program. Lastly, in column D, we have the total funds requested to serve a full day per site. This is the only column of this worksheet that will calculate the totals. To determine the total funds being requested, the worksheet is taking the total projected service earnings for a full day, full year program and subtracting the current service earnings of the part day, part year program that is currently in contract. If agencies are proposing multiple sites, the grand totals will automatically be calculated to the bottom of the screen. For our example, the total amount of funds being requested is $277,319. This concludes the overview of the fiscal forms. Can we go back to the slide deck, please? Thank you. I'll hand it over to Ellie now.
Thank you, Joey and Kiana. We would like to go over some general reminders when submitting these forms. Full day / full year and part day / part year worksheets, A1 through A5 and B1 through B5 are site specific and must be duplicated for each site. Right-click the tab, then select Move or Copy, select Create Copy, and then select OK. Full day / full year and part day / part year worksheets A6 through A10 and B6 through B10 are summary pages, and only one of each worksheet should be submitted for all sites. Part day to full day funding worksheets C1 through C6 are site specific and must be duplicated for each site. Right-click the tab, select Move or Copy, select Create a Copy, and select OK. Now I'll hand it to Crystal to discuss the program narrative.
Thank you, Alyssa. Sorry, I was having some difficulty getting back on video and off of mute. So again, thank you, Elisa. And now let's look at the program narrative requirements for our LEA applicants. Okay, a written program narrative must be provided for all questions in section A through E. Written program narrative responses must be complete and align with the scoring rubric, which is included in the program narrative under each of your questions. So each question, you will see the question, and then you'll see the boxes that have the scoring criteria of 0 to 4, 6 points, so on and so forth. Each response must include a header with the following information: the legal name of the agency, the page number, the title of the program narrative section, and item number, e.g. A1, preschool program quality, desired results developmental profile, B1, inclusion, etc. Each response belongs under the respective titles and pages, and responses are limited to 1 page per question. Information included in the application must be relevant and unique to the program being administered by the applicant. Applicants must describe the preschool program that the agency is going to implement. Any application containing false or misleading information is cause for disqualification. An application that is plagiarized in any part or form from another agency's application will automatically be rejected. Next slide. Also, applicants must not submit an application where the text has been copied from another agency's previous or current application, whether another agency has voluntarily or involuntarily provided the information. An application that is plagiarized in any part or form from a published source without citing the original author will automatically be rejected. Okay, when submitting the application other than via the SNAP survey, applications must conform to the format requirements cited in the application, excuse me, cited in the program attachment section of the RFA regarding paper size, margins, fonts, and page restrictions for responses. Responses to the written program narrative questions, again, are limited to the space provided, and please do not attach additional sheets. Only standard 12-point font, e.g. Arial or Times New Roman, that does not exceed 6 lines per inch must be used. Please do not use a compressed, narrow, or script font. Resources available to you to assist with the development of the written program narrative include all of the following, and Fiona will put the links to each of these documents or web pages in the chat for you. So we have the CSPP expansion RFA frequently asked questions webpage. We have the CSPP contract terms and conditions, the preschool learning foundations, the desired results developmental profile, the Serving Children with Disabilities webpage, the Early Education Division's Management Bulletins webpage, and also the Early Education Division's Frequently Asked Questions webpage, which are different than the CSPP expansion RFA FAQs. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we did have a lot of questions coming in via the Q&A, and a lot of those questions were asked multiple times. So I'm going to cover a few of those just to make sure everybody has the information needed regarding those questions. And then if time permits, we will take some live questions. So one of the questions that we were getting from some current contractors was regarding the application when including the number of slots. And the question is around, do they include their current funded enrollment plus those additional slots that they're requesting, or just the additional slots? So we only want you to include the additional slots that you want to expand. So say you already have 60 children and you want to add another 24 children, we just want to see the 24 children in your application. And then we were getting a lot of questions around justifications for a lesser MDO, as well as questions around having a full day part year program. So one of the questions was the example justification for a lesser MDO. So let's first define what part day, part year CSPP is and what full day, full year is as set forth in Education Code. So a part day, part year program is a program that operates 175 to 180 days for anywhere between 3 hours and 3 hours and 59 minutes in a day. A full day, full year state preschool program is defined as having a minimum days of operation of 246 days and the full 246 days per year, and the full day would be 4 or more hours in a day. Okay. If you're asking in your application to apply for full day, part year CSPP services, that's going to be included in the written program narrative. There's a question in there about what your intent is, as far as, you know, full day, full year, part day, part year, so on and so forth. So you're going to include that in the program narrative, and you want to be really, really clear in your written response the reason why you're proposing to only offer a part year program with full day services. So we want to really clear just the reason why you're requesting that. We do look at those, and we want to make sure essentially that you're meeting the needs of the children and families in your community. So can you identify that in your application? This is the reason why we see that the majority of children in our state preschool program have siblings that go to the school, and those siblings are only in school, you know, 175 days per year. So we're proposing to offer the state preschool the same number of days because families keep their children home with the older siblings, things like that. We have seen programs conduct needs assessments in their community by working with the local planning councils to determine what the needs of families in your community are. So just being really thoughtful and intentional about, you know, what you're proposing to offer and the reason why. And then let's see. We had a lot of questions around the fiscal forms, and ENFS is welcome to jump in and help me out here if they want to, but I was asking some questions in a side chat around this. So for your fiscal forms, with the exception of worksheet C, and you already have a state preschool program, you're only going to include on these fiscal forms the number of children that you're proposing to add to your state preschool program. So again, say you have 60 children currently enrolled, you want to add 24 slots, you're going to base your worksheets on those additional 24 children. The exception again is worksheet C, which is for those current contractors that have a part day program and they want to shift those part days to full days. Then you would complete worksheet C with your current funded enrollment plus any additional children. Does ENFS have any additional thoughts on that? Doesn't sound like it. Okay. Some other questions, and in case anybody did happen to stay on, we were getting some questions around, you know, is this funding available to community-based organizations that are not LEAs? Unfortunately, no, not at this time, but stay tuned. Make sure you're signed up for our email distribution list, because we do intend to release a small-ish RFA for community-based organizations in the near future, most likely within the next 2 to 3 months. And let's see, I think that's all the questions I had there. Lindsay, do you see any questions in the Q&A that we should?
Yeah, there are a couple. Some they look like for EENFS, but I think one maybe for PQI. Do non-certified children, e.g. those being funded through family fees, still need to be income eligible for CSPP?
So they're non-certified children. They're Non-certified children, private pay families, I'm assuming that that's what that means. Christine Carrera, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Non-certified children do not need to be income eligible for state preschool program. So only the children that you're enrolling to be reimbursed through your CSPP contract need to be income eligible for your state preschool program. Okay. Let's see. So I see anonymous attendee at 229 asked, what if you work closely with another LEA and you run your programs almost exactly the same? The narratives will be very similar. And I think this is in response to what we were talking about, plagiarizing. Similar is not the same. So we would notice if like an application was like word for word, right? We know a lot of programs have very similar philosophies of early education, and the applications might look similar. We would only disqualify an application if it's very blatantly clear that it was plagiarized. Okay. Do we need to provide a narrative if we are only applying to grow from part day to full day? So anybody who is applying for expansion funding must complete the written program narrative. That is how we score the applications. And if there's no written program narrative, we are not able to score the applications. Now I see this, it looks like D. Gefkin is asking this question. If you're only wanting to take your existing state preschool program contract and you're not asking for additional slots, and you want to move those slots from part day to full day, I recommend that you have a conversation with your early education nutrition fiscal services analyst and your program quality implementation office regional consultant. First, touch base with your consultant, have the conversation, and then we can work with your fiscal analyst. All right, let's see. I'm looking at other questions. If anybody sees any questions that I should respond to, please let me know. So this was another question that I saw quite a bit. This one is for an existing contractor, and they're over earning their current contract. So you have your maximum reimbursement amount, and you are serving more children than your MRA technically allows for. So you're not being reimbursed. And when we apply for the additional slots, we aren't actually opening additional sites, but continuing to serve at already open sites. In this case, do we just choose any of our current sites for the worksheet? I hope that makes sense. I don't know if ENFS has an answer for that regarding the worksheets. Nothing? Okay. It might be helpful, anonymous attendee, if you email the RFA inbox. So it's the CSPP RFA at cde.ca.gov. And Fiona, if you could drop that into the chat again, I would appreciate it. I think that we might be able to help you out a little bit more with that one-on-one. We have the question, if we apply for part day to full day, Do we need to start implementing full day in 24, 25, or can we defer to 25, 26? I would say that you need to include that in your written program narrative. And we would determine that on a case-by-case basis. But yes, I believe you could defer it to 25 to 26 if you're not quite ready to do that. Okay. I see the raise hand feature is there. I think we could take some live questions now, and I'll turn it back over to Lindsay to facilitate, and she could call on the applicable folks to answer questions.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Yeah, so if anybody has a question that you would like to ask live, please just raise your hand and I will unmute you and call on you, and then you'll be able to talk and answer or ask your question. So yeah, we leave it open now. Just use the raise hand feature on the bottom of the Zoom toolbar screen. There's the raise hand feature. All right, great. We have a question from Liz Ambra. I'm gonna click here. All right, you should be allowed to talk. So Liz, if you have a question, you should be able to ask it now.
Okay, maybe somebody else. Does anybody else have a question?
All right, I see Lori Reel. I'm going to go ahead and give you permission. You'll have to unmute yourself. You should be able to unmute and ask your question.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I work with Liz Ambra, so I was just connecting with her. We are a preschool under an LEA that receives the California Adult Education Program funds. So we weren't sure we're exempt from licensure, is my understanding. And so I just wanted to know what, if any, licensure we'd have to prove, or does that exempt us, or anything we'd have to state in the narrative?
Yeah, so you would need to include evidence of your exemption from licensure. So typically, though, your California State Preschool Program does have to be licensed unless you receive a waiver from the Department of Education and you're only serving 4-year-old children. But if you have evidence of that, you might want to connect with our CSPP RFA inbox and send what you have so we can take a look at that. They'll get that to one of our program quality implementation office consultants or administrators to look at it and just verify the exemption. And then you would just include that as part of your application.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, I have a hand up from Gianna Roca. All right, so Gianna, you should be able to unmute and ask your question now.
Hello, everybody. So when we submit the application in a couple of weeks and we provide a calendar, does that calendar does a calendar match what we, it's hard to know when we're going to open up a classroom because we
Right.
don't have a classroom licensed yet.
Right.
It could be licensed before August 12th, which is our start date, or it might be licensed in November. So what
Right.
should the calendar look like?
So we do understand that there are likely going to be changes to many calendars that are submitted. So you want to submit what you're intending to do, and then through the process of executing that contract and everything. If for some reason you have to start at a later date, so I would do it with the earlier date. So say you intend to open August 15th. I would submit a calendar with that August 15th start date to make sure that your contract has enough funds in the event that you do open by August 15th, right? And then during the process, if your facility doesn't get licensed timely enough or what have you, we would just have you submit to us a revised program calendar, and then we would adjust everything accordingly.
Okay, but we do also have the option to say that we would start in January or February. Okay,
Yes.
got
We
it.
sure do.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So I see a question here that I just want to grab out of the Q&A real quick. A question around, don't we use up to 25 hours or more than 25 hours to distinguish between part day and full day? So this would be in a full day, full year contract, right? And it is now that 25 hours is considered, anything under 25 hours is considered let's see, how do I say this? Part day, full year. And then 25 hours or more is considered full day, full year. That's for your reporting purposes. But there's a clear distinction between a part day, part year program and a full day, full year program. So that part day, part year program is always 175 to 180 days with between 3 hours and 3 hours and 59 minutes of service. And then your full day, full year is anything over 4 hours per day. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you. We have a hand raised from Sal Fonseca. So I'm gonna allow you to unmute. And Sal, you should, be able to unmute and ask your question.
Thank you. Just going back to my question on the Q&A, if we were to reach out to, let me see again. Licensing takes a little bit to get back to us or schedule an appointment to revise licensing information. Would we need to terminate since with that relate to operation?
I'm sorry. You're really breaking up. I'm going to see if I can find your question in the queue. Oh, okay. Can we turn? No, that's not it. I think you're asking something about licensing.
Yes, licensing. Do we need to submit the updated license in the application?
If you have an updated license, you would. Typically, we look at your facility licenses while we're going through the process after you've been notified of a proposed award. And then anything that needs to happen with a facility license, like say you don't have one or you're increasing your capacity, that doesn't usually happen overnight. So we understand that takes time. So you would submit that to the Program Quality Implementation Office and the Fiscal Services Office during those contract negotiations. I hope that helps. I had a really hard time understanding because you were breaking up.
Thank you. Yes, it does.
All right, we have another question from Dr. June Regis. So you should be able to unmute now and ask your question.
Hello, ladies. My question is a quick question. Is a CBO allowed to apply in this session, or is it only LEAs?
Yeah, so this particular request for applications is only for our local educational agencies. However, we do encourage, community-based organizations if they're interested in, being a subcontractor. You can talk to your local school districts about this funding opportunity and see if they would be interested in applying essentially on your behalf and have you serve children as a subcontractor for them. We will be releasing a pretty small RFA in the near future for our community-based organizations. It's not as large as this one. There's not as much funding available, but that will be coming in the next couple of months. So,
All right, those are all the hands we had up for now. If anybody else has a question, please raise your hand. We've got a few minutes left. We'd love to take some more live questions, and if not, we'll continue getting to the questions in the Q&A.
So I see a question from S. Valdez at 225. Can we turn into a full year, 4 hours? So it looks like they're a current part-day program, 10 months, 3 hours a day, thinking about turning into a full year program. So if you want to change your existing contract, right, you can and not apply for expansion funds, you could submit a program narrative change to your assigned program quality implementation office consultant. And they would work with ENFS on that to, update the contract. However, keeping in mind that if you're not applying for expansion funding, your maximum reimbursement amount for your contract does not change. So you'd have to look at that, right? Like how, like how many less children you would be able to serve because now you're serving full day instead of part day. Okay. Okay, here's a question from anonymous attendee at 253. Can you clarify? LEAs can subcontract with both private community-based centers and family child cares. So there's two different things. An LEA can subcontract with a community-based organization that operates child care centers. And then an LEA can also apply to provide services as a family child care home education network. So the family child care home education network is essentially what you, the contractor, would be, and you'd be operating that FITCHN, and you would find licensed providers that meet all of the requirements to serve children in their homes, and you would reimburse them with your state preschool program dollars. So yes, and as part of the mixed delivery system, we do encourage applicants to consider providing services through a FITCHN and subcontracting. We know that there's facilities shortages across the state, there are staffing shortages across the state, and this can help alleviate some of those issues and expand the number of children and families we can serve across the state. So we do strongly encourage you to consider those options. And if you have questions around what that looks like and what operating a FITCHN looks like, feel free to reach out to the Program Quality Implementation Office consultants in your county to have a conversation about what that would look like and how you operate that. And I think we are close to time, Lindsay. So do you want to take it back over to close this out?
Sure, thank you. All right, we can go to the next slide, Jacob. All right, if you have questions regarding eligibility to apply for the CSPP expansion funding or the RFA application process, please email csppRFA@cde.ca.gov. Next slide. Thank you all for joining us today. We are looking forward to receiving your applications and to expanding the CSPP across the state in order to serve more children and families in high-quality early education programs. We know that the services provided through the CSPP truly make a difference in lifelong outcomes for children and families, and we couldn't do that without the work of all of you. Thank you, everyone.